If there were one piece of date advice that I could give to women, it would be to stop believing that you are the exception to the rule. So, my name is Keshia Rice. I am a dating coach and hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to heal from unhealthy relationship patterns and to attract healthy, cherished relationships. So, welcome to Christianish. If you are watching this live, welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment and subscribe and let me know that you're here. And if you're listening on the podcast, then thank you. So, this is the podcast for women who have Bibles but not boundaries. And I want to talk about a really important aspect of that. And that is knowing that you are not the exception to the rule when it comes to dating and relationships. Because this is what I see so often when I am looking at dating and relationship videos on TikTok or Instagram or any other social media. There's always a woman who's trying to give wise counsel, who is doing her best to give women good advice on how to have healthy relationships, how to not get their feelings hurt, how to thrive, and how to find love that is aligned with their wants and needs and desires. And always, without fail, there is someone in the comments section, some pick me, who has to be like, well, marriage is just a piece of paper. So you saying that women should expect to get married is just wrong. I know people who, they've been dating or living together for 15, 20 years and they don't need marriage. Or, I hear you saying that you should expect a man to tell you early on in their relationship what his intentions are. But I know people who didn't do that and they're perfectly happy. Whatever the advice is, it is always, well, I know an exception to this rule, or I know someone who's an exception to this rule. First of all, I find that a lot of the women who say this, that, there's all these different exceptions, are just straight up lying. There's nothing new under the sun. And most of the dating and relationship advice that you see today is not much different than what our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers knew about relationships. But beyond that, you also don't really know the inner workings of other people's relationships. So whenever I see someone say, well, my friend did this, or my sister does this, or my mom does that, and they're perfectly happy, you don't know if they're perfectly happy. Women, and I will speak from my perspective, particularly Black women, have this thing of, wanting to appear as strong and wanting to appear as resilient. And so often that means that even the people who are closest to us don't know all the things that we've been through. And beyond that, believing that you are the exception to a rule is setting yourself up for failure. Because, yes, the fact that the word exception exists means that it is possible to be an exception. And maybe you are. But instead of hoping on that is like buying a lottery ticket. Like, yeah, it is possible that you could not value yourself and still find someone who values you in a relationship. It is possible that you can accept bad treatment in the beginning, and after years and years of sacrificing, someone's finally going to realize, oh, she sacrificed so much, so maybe after 10 years of treating her like trash, maybe I'll actually treat her right for once. Like, those things are possible, but they are highly unlikely. So instead of banking on this hope that you might be the exception to a rule, you need to instead learn to watch people's actions, watch the way people are treating you now, and learn how to take that information and act accordingly as to whether or not you're going to continue to give these people access to your life, give them the same level of access, or whether or not you're going to move on and find relationships that are more aligned with what it is that you truly want. So, we are going to talk today about 5 ways or 5 steps that you are going to do in order to truly, once and for all, make yourself the priority and not try to be an exception. So, first of all, you need to be in the right environment. What you are surrounded with, you will continue to tolerate. So often, women that I work with that are in bad relationships or have a history of bad relationships, oftentimes I see the case that is not just them. They are surrounded by other women in bad relationships, their friends, their sisters, their mother. Maybe the women in their family have a history of ill treatment. And this is not to shame anyone, but if that is what you grew up with and that is what you knew, it can be really hard to break that cycle, to break those generational curses, and to move on to a healthier life. You need to start finding mentors and friends and a new circle of women who have high self esteem, who have high self confidence, who don't accept ill treatment in relationships. You need to start finding women who expect more, and being around them, you will learn how to expect more as well. And if you are not yet finding them in your everyday life and the people that you meet, continue to look, but start with online. Start finding women that you can follow on social media, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, who have the type of life that you want to live, and start learning from them. What are they doing that I can also be doing? How are they living their life? How are they setting boundaries? What types of conversations are they having? I always hear that saying, if you sit at a table with people who are above you, the conversations will be different. That goes for every area of life. So often that saying is applied to business, and this whole idea that, if you're broke or if you just have these money and career goals that you're not there yet, you need to be around people who are making more money than you, who have a higher level of career success than you. If you're an entrepreneur whose businesses are doing better than yours. And that's true, but it also applies to relationships as well. If you are unhappily single, or if you're unhappily in a relationship, you need to be around women who are happy in relationships, who have the types of relationships that you want to lead. Um, the second thing that you need to do is make sure that a person's actions and their words are aligned. Now, again, I talk about how this podcast is for women who have Bibles, but not boundaries. So I looked up a couple of verses that I want you to keep in mind. One is 1 John 3 and 18. My dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. In Matthew 7:20 is the other one. People are known not by what they say, but by what they do. And, I always hear that saying, actions speak louder than words. And while that is true, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is that actions and words should align with each other. It's not a matter of dismissing one over the other. And also, you want to take the time to allow someone to show you their actions and their words over a period of time, not just, what you see at the beginning when somebody wants to sweep you off of your feet. You need to give time, because especially when it comes to dating, when you are dating someone, the first 3 months of dating, you are not meeting that person. You are meeting their representative. It takes a good 3 months, if not longer, for that veneer to wear off, which brings me to my third point, and that is to give people time and give people space. This is another mistake that I see women make all the time. They meet someone, they go on dates, they tell this person their entire life story, and they are talking so much that they never let this other person get a word in edgewise. Now, this is a mistake for two reasons. One, by doing this, you are entertaining yourself, and you will often end up falsely ascribing that to this man that you've just met. As in, you think that he is so interesting, you think that the two of you have such a good time together. No, sis, you are entertaining yourself, and he is just there for it. And if you allowed him to actually get a word wise into the conversation, you would find that maybe he's not as interesting as you think he is, or maybe the two of you are not as compatible as you think. You need to take a step back, and you need to allow him to speak, and you need to listen. And also, you need to learn to listen with some curiosity. Again, another common mistake that I see women make is they turn their judgy ears on the second that they do allow the man to start talking. You know that whole TikTok trend, we listen and we don't judge? I really need you to take that to heart. And what I need you to do is when you are getting to know someone and you are asking questions and they're telling you things about themselves, you really need to listen from a place of curiosity, not judgment. Even if this is someone who is not compatible with you, having that curiosity can teach you some lessons. You may end up learning, like, oh, that is interesting. Okay, this is how the male mind thinks. Or you may learn, okay, this is not somebody that I'm compatible with, but this is an interesting person. Maybe let me get to know them for networking purposes or to be friends with them, even if this doesn't turn into a relationship. But by being, by coming to conversations from that place, by putting yourself in a position where you are listening and not judging, you are making the other person feel more comfortable. And because you are making him feel more comfortable, he is more likely to be honest with you. So you are more likely to get a feel early on for who this person really is. Instead of the love bombing, where someone puts on their best behavior again for the first couple of months, and then all of a sudden, once they think that they have you, then they start acting funny and they start showing the real them. So you always want to put yourself in a position where you make someone comfortable enough with you to reveal the real you. And again, by having this detachment, you also save yourself some hurt because you realize that you're going to go out here, you're going to meet people, you're going to date. And yeah, sometimes that's going to turn into a short term relationship. Sometimes it's going to be a long relationship. One of these men you meet is going to be the man that you marry. But by not having this detachment and being genuinely interested in just getting to know another person, again, this person's going to reveal themselves a little bit more and it's going to be easier to find out what you need to know, whether or not the two of you are aligned. But also, you're going to spare them hurt and you're going to spare yourself some hurt. The fourth thing that you want to do is to keep your values first. So, whenever I work with a client on helping her attract the relationship of her dreams, the first thing we do is make a love list of what it is that she wants in a relationship. And I am really heavy on making sure that we really prioritize values. What are the things that you value as you are building, your future relationship, your future marriage, your future family, if you're planning on having kids? Because values are a much better indicator of whether or not a relationship is going to last than shared interests, whether or not you both like the same sports or books or movies. So values are the foundation for a relationship. But also, this is going to help you feel better about yourself and help you sleep at night to be in relationships, not just romantic, but also friendships and other relationships with people who share the same values that you do. So I want you to spend some time really getting clear on your values and what they are. And once you do that, I want you to keep those handy. Write them down and then put them someplace where you will always see them. Tape them to a mirror or to a door or something so that as you're going out, because hopefully you are being very intentional about wanting to be in a relationship. And as you are intentional, you are actively going out and finding new ways to meet people. So, because you're doing that, you want to have this list of values someplace close by so that as you go out and meet people, as you're having conversations, as you're getting to know someone, you're swiping on apps, whatever, you can look at this list often and say, hey, this person that I'm meeting, are they aligned with my values? Now, the fifth thing and last step that I want you to remember is to always prioritize yourself. I have said this many times before, prioritizing yourself is not selfish. In fact, it is the least selfish thing that you can do. Because once you prioritize yourself, then you are loving other people from the overflow. You're filling yourself to the brim, and then you have all this overflow that you can use to love other people instead of giving love that you don't really have and then having resentment on the other end. But also, once you prioritize yourself, you will notice that other people start to prioritize you too. The more you make yourself a priority, you are teaching other people how to love you. So you put yourself first, you are teaching other people to consider your wants and your needs instead of constantly training you. So you always want to make sure that you are in the right environment, that you're making sure actions and words align with each other, that you give people time to reveal themselves to you, that you keep your values first, and that you prioritize yourself. So let me know, what steps are you taking to make sure that you don't expect to be an exception and that you actually follow the correct rules of dating and make valuing yourself, loving yourself, and then
This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.